Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 117 of the Falcoholic Live. I am, of course, your host, Kevin Knight, joined by some great guests this evening. First of all, with us is Eric Robinson on Twitter at Eric_Robinson. Eric, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good.
Excellent, excellent. And we also have with us former Falcons guard Keenan Forney at KForney65 on Twitter. Keenan, how are you tonight?
Doing good, doing good. Appreciate you asking, man.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a trying time in the world right now. We hope to give you guys something fun to talk about, something to distract you a little bit from everything that's going on in the world. And unfortunately, the Falcons haven't been really providing as much of a distraction as we might like. But it's still football, and any football is better than no football. So it's going to be a good time tonight. We're going to get into that Monday Night Football game that was unfortunately, not great. And we'll also be getting to Week 5 with the Panthers, checking in on the injury report, that sort of stuff. I know everyone wants to know who our preferred head coaching candidates are, so we'll definitely touch on the guys that we like. And we'll go from there. We'll take your questions and all that good stuff as well. But before we get into that, just felt like it would be a good idea to kick things off with the news about the Titans and everything that's going on with them in terms of, what is now the first real official COVID outbreak for an NFL team. They already had their game last week postponed. This week it looks like that could be happening again as they've had even more positive tests. The news came out that they, against the rules of the team and the league, they decided the players to meet up and work out. And that has apparently caused more positive tests as well. Eric, I know you have some thoughts on this, so I'll let you get things kicked off. But what is your temperature check on the COVID situation with the NFL? Are you really worried? Are you a little bit worried? Is this like a systemic issue or more of like a Titan-centric issue at this point?
I'm not worried at all because after 4 weeks of football, giving the amount of teams that the NFL has to juggle and the amount of players that are on each NFL roster, the amount of travel that these 32 teams had to encounter on in roughly a month, I honestly think they did a fairly good job as far as managing this. We saw a break. We saw a big name guy like Cam Newton, who was really the first headline, like, oh my God, an elite or big time NFL player, tested positive. And then we see it now with Stephon Gilmore from the Patriots. But I'm not going to call that an outbreak. That's two players on a roster of, 80, I guess? I don't know.
Right, give or take the practice squad guys, yeah.
Yeah, give or take the practice squad guys. So that's fairly solid. What we're seeing from the Titans, to me, is not a mishandling by the NFL. Slowly but surely, the story is coming out. The Titans dropped this ball. They messed this up. This seems like complete neglect of protocol by a team. And now there's a lot of talk about their upcoming game this weekend against the Bills being forfeited, and their game that was supposed to be scheduled for last week against the Steelers being forfeited. And to be quite honest with you, I'm for it. If a team or players collectively want to say, forget the protocol, we do whatever we want to do, and they're putting other teams in harm's way, then, what can you do, man? Like, there's protocols in place. We wanted football. We wanted the NFL to put safety procedures in place, and when the safety procedures are in place, the players are like, I'm not doing that. I don't feel like it. Come on.
Yeah.
I think that's a little unfair, and I think this is an opportunity for the league to crack down on a team and say, hey, we're serious about these safety measures. You guys want to take the field. You guys want to play the game that you love, that you train for, that you dedicate, pretty much your life to. Then we need to make it as safe as possible. And even if that means not having a practice for 2 days out the week and staying home safely, then so be it. But this is significant because you're talking about a team possibly forfeiting 2 straight games.
Yeah.
And they're going to be 3-2. We talked about it in the group chat earlier. what if the possibility comes that the Titans miss the playoffs by one game?
Right. Yeah. That would be very
that
tragic.
Game,
yeah.
And that one game could be them possibly beating the Bills or the Steelers.
Right.
So, like I said, for the most part, I think the NFL has managed it very well to the most part. But right now, when it comes to the Titans, it's ugly, and I hope all the other 31 teams see this as an example and say, "Hey, guys, we're going to try to be as safe as possible with this."
Yeah, and you see honestly with the Falcons an example of what happens when everything's done correctly. They found out they shut him down the next day. They didn't allow him to practice, and it was something that hasn't spread through the organization, and it looks like we may be getting Terrell back this week, hopefully. Right. So that's good news. Hopefully he's healthy and recovered and had mild or no symptoms. That would be the best possible outcome, obviously. But with the Titans, it seems like there was just this kind of current of maybe not taking it seriously. We've been seeing that a lot in this country right now. Don't want to, don't necessarily want to make this political, but I'm just saying, when you've got the highest levels of the country not taking it seriously, it's not surprising that an NFL team didn't take it seriously. So it's a weird situation. But Keenan, as a player, I know this probably hits differently because, we had Roger Saffold of the Titans come out and say, well, we felt like we had to try to find a way to practice because, our jobs are on the line, our livelihood's on the line. How are you feeling about this current situation? Obviously, you never had to play through anything like this, but with what's gone on with the Titans, what are your thoughts on that situation with COVID there?
Well, I'm kind of on both ends of it. I can understand why the players are, trying to get together because, you do have to get out there and practice and get your chemistry and those repetitions in, and you got to practice all the different little situations that you're going to have on Sunday, and you got to get out there and you got to go through that cardio,
Yeah. You
can't just not sit around all week and show up on Sunday and think you're going to be all good. But, at the same time, it's just difficult right now. I think that you have to do the best that you can. How we're all sitting here on these Google and Zoom meetings. I know it's not the best thing to do, but, you have to have your meetings on that. And then maybe, this is something that I used to do during the season after practice all day. I'd go home with my wife and go through the plays, and we'd step through and walk through everything. I mean, we weren't going 100 miles an hour with it, but, maybe those guys, they can do something kind of like that at their house and then try and train. And, I know most of those guys have home gyms.
Right.
Go outside and run or jump on a treadmill or the Stairmaster or something. You got to do the best you can because you don't want to be selfish and pass it on to your other teammates, but you don't want to give it to another team.
Right.
And it's man, it's a crazy time, man. It's difficult to say.
Now, I'm speaking from my perspective, and my perspective is not on the football field. It's off of it. So their game against the Steelers was already postponed. It was going to be pushed back to week 7. So, okay, they got an extra bye week, or they got a free bye week. If this league says, hey, you guys cannot practice, the players couldn't collectively say, hey, what if the ones that didn't test positive, what if we mask up and we still conduct the practice?
That's a good idea.
At least try to get permission from the league or from the organization to say, hey, the offensive line here, we're all good. We want to practice. Can we at least conduct something and we're all masked up? Or most of the players live near each other during the football season. They pretty much live in the vicinity. Why not have the offensive linemen get together at someone's house for a couple of days, everybody mask up, maybe watch film, maybe use that opportunity to watch film since you can't get out on the field. Something. I just feel like this felt like completely like the Titans were, oh man, forget this. I'm not. Forget those protocols. We're going to do what we need to do, even though we don't have a game coming up.
Yeah.
So that was selfish on their part. I like your idea. The ones that aren't positive, they can all get together and mask up and go out in the field somewhere, socially distance, and you can still get the same work done. Same work that they've been doing in training camp. But that was out of line by the whole team, not knowing what their status was, jumping out there saying, "Yeah, we're gonna do it. regardless of what anybody says, man. You're putting other people at jeopardy.
Yeah.
If I'm an opposing player, I would be like, hold on, man, wait a minute, because I know we're on Sundays, we may be opponents, we may be foes, but collectively, we all have to battle this thing, coronavirus, together in order for all of us to get through this season safely.
Right.
So even if I'm a Falcons player, I may not like, Cam Jordan or the Saints, but I got to make sure that I'm not getting out there on that field with coronavirus and passing it on to them, and then the next week they pass it on to another team,
right?
And then so on and so forth. Like you have to look out for each other, man. Like it's just that was complete neglect.
Yeah, you got to look out for each other, on that on the medical side of it, but also the other part of it is, you messing with people's money.
Yeah.
Because if that stuff gets to circulating too much and it's an outbreak and they can't control it, they're going to be like, hey, well, we got to cancel this thing.
Ain't no game.
To be honest, a lot of those guys, they be spending up that money as soon as they get it.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of guys would be ass out if they was to be like, hey, look here, we got to cancel the season for the next couple months. There's going to be some guys looking around like, what?
Yeah.
No, I need my checks, but I should have thought of that when I was out doing what you weren't supposed to, so they need to think about their money, and I'm pretty sure somebody's having that conversation,
Yeah. That 53rd guy on the roster is like, hey, man, look, we don't get these game checks. My family ain't eating. We got a problem going forward. So let's take some caution with this.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it part of it is probably an issue of like just maybe there wasn't a lot of communication from the league with the Titans about what they could or couldn't do, and they felt like, okay, well, we can just take it in our own hands and do this, and that's not the right thing to do. But I do think that the NFL was probably hoping to never have this problem and that they wouldn't have to deal with this sort of issue, and there wasn't a lot of things to pass on to the rest of the players. It seemed like there was a lot of last minute shuffling of games and things like that, and I'm thankful that the Chiefs-Patriots game ended up going on as planned, but now they've got more positives there, and it's like, oh, was that a good idea? And it's just very uncertain time, and with all this stuff going on, people just have to be super, super careful to prevent the season from going off the rails.
I just want to ask, even the listeners who are here tonight, did they really anticipate going through 17 weeks of football without somebody testing positive? Like, I feel like this seems like it's new to people. Like, oh my God.
It's like a shock,
Positive for COVID. Like, we kind of knew this was going to happen.
Yeah. There's
probably going to be one or two players a week that's probably going to test positive for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That could already be in your head. And if it's not, then that's your fault. That's your expectations that are letting you down. Like, they're not going to go unscathed throughout the season.
Yeah.
It's the thing for the NFL is to prevent a massive outbreak, not to prevent a quarterback on a starting team from not getting it, period. Like, it's probably going to happen. There's probably going to be one or two players every week that's going to test positive for this thing.
Yeah, yeah. At a certain point, it's going to happen, and it's really just like, how do you go about keeping it from getting worse, and how do you manage it? And
the Falcons had the first player during the regular season test positive for it, and they managed it pretty damn well because no one else from the team, knock on wood, tested positive after AJ Terrell did. Mm-hmm. No one from the Bears tested positive after that.
Right.
That's pretty successful to me, guys. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah. Honestly, the Falcons seem to have done a really good job with it, and I'm proud of the team for that. So
especially no one else in that DB room or even the wide receivers catching nothing either, because they all sitting around each other, and when you're in the locker room, you get to doing little, guys get to wrestling and just playing and all that, and then you out on the field, you touching each other up. So yeah, you absolutely right, man. They did a real good job of managing.
He's AJ Terrell, so I'm pretty sure he saw Julio during practice that week, Ridley during practice that week, and those guys went unscathed. So I mean, it can be managed. It really can.
Yeah. So we'll just hope that everything gets better, that we don't have to see any more games canceled, and that the league kind of gets this under control, because we all want football. Even in a season where the Falcons are just goddamn terrible, we still want football. So, I mean,
man, you know what it's going to have to happen. It's going to have to be those team leaders in those rooms, especially the money guys. They're going to have to get up there and tell everybody, hey, look here, man, y'all. You got to cut out all this bullshit, man. We got to be safe out here. You know, hey, I'm good. My check, I'm good. I'm getting interest off of my money, but some of y'all ain't.
Yeah.
So the ones of y'all that ain't, that's out going to the clubs and whatever else you out there in the streets doing, you know what I'm saying? They can cut this down here at any minute. And you're gonna be out, you know what I'm saying, trying to find you a job, you know, because some of y'all ain't doing right with what you getting right now.
Right.
Look,
So
I'm making 6 figures on a contract, man. Look, I'm fine not going to a party for 6 months.
Right. I could, hang out at.
That's cool.
I can watch Netflix for 6 months for that.
Netflix. I got my money. I may invite a woman or two over. Who knows? I
can make my own party jump, baby.
In a situation like this, I don't have to do that. And I feel like NFL players need to have that mindset. Yeah. They're so used to doing that. They're so accustomed to not being at home 7 days a week when they're not on the football field. But these are times where we all have to adjust collectively.
Yeah. Yep.
And a lot of times, though, guys, they want to get out and blow off some steam. You know, you've been working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, usually Tuesday is the day off, so a lot of guys go out on Monday nights. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But to just blow off some steam doing whatever, you know, they're gonna have to just bottle it up and find something to do at the crib, man.
Yep.
You gotta find another outlet this season right now.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. So we're gonna get into Monday Night Football here, though. I do have a question in the chat from Jason Gaines. He asks Keenan if are the helmets behind you, are they for each year that you played in the NFL?
No, sir. Those are just the helmets that I played over the years. You know, I got my college helmet. I got the old Falcon helmet from the 90s. I got my San Diego helmet, Jacksonville helmet. So yeah, they're just different ones that I just decided to pull out and place up top and decorate the office.
Looks good. Yeah, it looks great.
That old
appreciate
it. Face mask on that too.
Yeah.
With the long bar in the middle.
Yeah, straight old school.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
I played with that little. We almost had me cussing just then. That thing with that linebacker helmet. I wanted the bar, so when I struck somebody, they feeling it.
Yeah. Yep. Got a lot less people trying to jab you in the eyes with that little middle one in there. So.
Yeah, man. I wanted my helmet to look like Mike Kins and Jeff Van Note and all those guys.
Yeah, that's good. It's good helmets to emulate right there. It's good helmets to emulate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. So Monday Night Football. I got to talk about it a lot. On Monday, technically Tuesday, because it went over. We went into the overtime there with the game going late and being delayed and all that. So I'll let you guys get kind of the first crack at it here. Keenan, I'll let you take the first shot. Like, you obviously saw the game. The Falcons obviously didn't win. They're now 0-4. For you, what were some of the big takeaways from that game? Obviously the Falcons didn't play particularly well, but is there anything just base top line stuff that you're looking at? What were some of the big takeaways for you?
Defensively, we're not very good, man.
Yeah.
And that's just saying it as nice as I can say it. Defensively, we not that good. Offensively, we're not very consistent. You know, we do some things well, and then we take some steps back. But also, too, Green Bay is a really good team, man. It was they so good that they sat out Devontae Adams and was just like, yeah, we don't need you tonight, dog. Just chill out over there. We got this without you. Sit down, Mercedes Lewis. We don't need you tonight. We got this. And then even seeing Aaron Rodgers during the game just shaking his head laughing, that was the laugh and look of, I got this team, man.
Yeah. There was not much resistance.
This is me playing Madden 21 right now.
Right.
Guys, they can't fade me right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, it was just a complete dissection of the defense by Aaron Rodgers. You could tell Green Bay took their foot off the gas because they just didn't have any fear of this team. They ran a lot. They just carved this team up with Robert Tonyan. So shout out to Evan for putting Robert Tonyan in the fantasy football sleepers article. He nailed that one.
No clue who that guy was.
Yeah, Robert Tonyan looked like an All-Pro, and Jamal Williams, the running back, was their second leading receiver with 95 yards on 8 catches. And the Falcons they got blasted by the Packers like tertiary weapons. Like they didn't even have their top 2 receivers. Aaron Rodgers just kind of relaxed back there and spread the ball around, and the Falcons provided basically no resistance whatsoever. Add to that the fact that they just got ravaged by injuries too. They were already down 2 safeties in Ricardo Allen and Keanu Neal. Going into the game, DeMonte Casey suffered an Achilles tear and was out for the season. Jalen Hawkins, the rookie, suffered some sort of head injury. He left the game, which forced the Falcons to put in former undrafted free agent Sherrod Niesman and former undrafted free agent Jamal Carter as the 2 starting safeties with predictably bad results. But to me, I know people were like, oh, well, they were missing their starting safeties. That's the reason. No, that's not the reason the defense wasn't good. Okay, they were really bad with the starting safeties. So let's not try to make excuses there. It's just a disaster. The defense is a total disaster. I mean, it's the worst scoring defense in the league. And they would have given up way more yards if they had been competitive on offense. I have no doubt of that. It was just a very deflating performance. I mean, it didn't provoke the same level of anger and visceral hatred that blowing those 2 16-point leads back to back did. So I guess I'm thankful for that. The Falcons just simply were never really in contention in this game instead of going up and then being blown out in humiliating fashion. But it's still infuriating. It's still frustrating, and now you're sitting at 0-4 for the first time since the 21st century got kicked off. So none of those things are good. And usually the bright spot of this team has been the offense, and even that was a disappointment. Matt Ryan had an off game. There's no discounting that. It was not his sharpest game as a passer. The running game was pretty mediocre. Todd Gurley did get into the end zone twice, but 3.6 yards per carry there. The rest of the running backs weren't any better. Olamide Zaccheaus, that's maybe a bright spot. He had a pretty good game, 8 for 86. He's kind of entrenched himself as that wide receiver 4 option who can step up when called upon. So that's always nice to see, but Calvin Ridley, no catches. The Packers clearly made an emphasis of their game plan to limit him, and he to me looked a step slow from that ankle injury. I mean, the timing was off between him and Ryan on several plays. I think he was just a step slow from that injury. Julio Jones left at halftime and did not return. Russell Gage mysteriously vanished from the game plan at some point, so I don't know if he re-aggravated something or if he just wasn't targeted. I don't know what was going on there, but even on offense, where it's usually been a bright spot, it was not a bright spot. And the pass rush was...
Hayden Hurst have any targets?
Hayden Hurst, 4 for 51 as a receiver. So he was another guy that stepped up and was able to help the offense keep moving. But yeah, I mean, as a whole, not great at all. And 16 points against the Packers defense statistically has been good at they haven't allowed a ton of yards or points, but coming into this game, they had faced, I think, the 3rd fewest offensive plays of any team, and their yards per play statistics were really bad. So this defense is actually not good, despite what you might see from the overall yardage and points, because they played some offenses that just didn't have a lot of opportunities to score or run plays. But if you look at them on a per play basis, they were among the league's worst against the run. They allowed 5.5 yards per carry against the run. They allowed over 8 yards per attempt against the pass. And the Falcons didn't approach any of those numbers on either in the running game or the passing game. So that has to be a disappointing performance, no matter what way you slice it. But yeah, I don't really have anything nice to say. Eric, do you have anything nice to say? I don't think you do, but
you guys know I'm for the most part I'm a stat head. I like to look at numbers because they do tell a story. And I always say that every time the Falcons take the field, there's always that one goofy stat that's like, what? And we've never seen that before. And it only happens to the Falcons. It doesn't happen to the Browns or the Bengals or anybody else. It only happens to the Falcons. So, as you mentioned, the Packers, they were without their top 2 receivers. Their number 3 receiver, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, was pretty covered up by Kendall Sheffield. Glad to see him back on the field because he was a bright spot for the team on Monday night. But there's one stat that stood out to me by Aaron Rodgers. And I said, you know what? That's just typical. That's typical Atlanta. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, when targeting running backs and tight ends on Monday night, was 20 for 20 for 241 yards and 4 touchdowns.
That doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good, Eric.
Brutal, man. 20 for 20, 241, and 4 touchdowns to running backs and tight ends.
That's not good. That's not good, folks. Generally, you don't want that stat.
That's your goofy stat of the week.
Yeah.
Come on, really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what.
And it wasn't as if these running backs or tight ends were like elite level guys.
Right, like Aaron Jones is who you would normally think of, and it wasn't even him. It was like Jamal Williams.
Robert Tonyan would probably never have another 3 touchdown game ever in his career ever again.
Yeah,
he did against the Falcons. And it's painful watching them now at this point. It really is.
Yeah.
Hey, when Tonyan get that money this offseason because of that game, he need to make a donation to us. You know what I'm saying? We got him on the map.
He's going to send the Falcons defense a cut of that.
Go ahead and pay your 10%. Pay your 10%.
We know what's going to be on his highlight reel. We already know what game will be on.
They're going to show this game at his funeral in 70 years or whatever.
Hey, it was on national TV too. So yeah. Hey, all he got to do is just keep doing his thing and. Yeah, hey, when you pay your tithes, you need to send us a little percentage of that too, man.
Yeah.
It's brutal watching them, man. And
it was bad. It was real bad. I mean, the defense, there's no redeeming qualities in the defense right now. Yeah.
I know that the scoreboard says 14-point loss. It should have been much worse.
Yeah, it could have been.
The Packers should have easily put up 40. They would have easily put up 40 if they wanted to.
Yeah, they seemed like they were just chilling. Like they were just content to just kind of hand it off to Jamal Williams and, throw some bombs. They weren't really stressing. And it's funny, if the Falcons were in that situation, they would have just been sweating. Like they were like, oh crap, are we going to blow another lead? Are we going to blow another lead this week?
Make a 4th quarter comeback? They couldn't. It's just funny.
Well, that's the Galaxy brain play. It's like you can't blow a lead if you never get one, so...
Honestly, it was difficult when I put together my takeaways article. It was really difficult trying to find some positives.
Yeah, I mean Kendall Sheffield, he was going against the wide receiver 3, but he was covering the wide receiver 3 well.
We knew he was because we knew coming into that game that Valdez-Scantling was going to be the top target at wide receiver.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the coaching staff knew it too because they had told Sheffield. Even with their scheme is kind of sort of put together where there's a left cornerback and a right cornerback. But that night, they kind of scrapped that and said, Sheffield, where he goes, you go. And he played him very well.
Yeah, so that was a bright spot. Foyer's good.
Zacchaeus, I don't even know about Foyer, man. Foyer gave up. Foyer looked lost in coverage.
I'm trying to find anything here, Eric. Anything.
There was a few busted coverages the other night, man.
Yeah.
One where it was like 2 guys. I was just like, wait, we got 2 guys free.
There was one where there was 3 guys covering a single player, and there was just 2 Packers completely uncovered.
No. The 4th and 2.
Yeah.
When the safety, the single high safety is 20 yards down the field on 4th and 2.
Yep. Yeah, what is that? The Greg Williams special? Engage 8 and then just, Jabril Peppers 30 yards deep.
They only send 3 receivers out on a pattern on that particular play. And coincidentally, all 3 were open.
Yeah.
And it was 4th and 3, and they're playing off coverage.
Well, at least you didn't get burned deep. I mean, not that it matters on 4th and 2, but Yeah.
But I will give some credit to rookie safety Jalen Hawkins. He played pretty well. The first drive was a little rough for him, and he was pretty much the reason why Aaron Jones was wide open for the Packers' opening touchdown. But outside of that drive, I think he played fairly well. He was aggressive. He was very assertive. He's what I like to call nosy. I like my safeties to be nosy, which means they're putting their nose in everybody's business. Regardless where the ball is, that's what they are. Jamal Adams, he's a nosy safety because even when you think the play is going away from him, he's always popping up on the screen. I saw that from Jalen Hawkins a little bit on Monday night. He was pretty nosy. He was everywhere when he wasn't supposed to be. And Zacchaeus also was pretty positive, but there's no creativity from the offense, of course. They didn't have Julio out there.
Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't really that. It was the scheme, man. It was real disappointing. Like, I mean, Ray Moon in the chat points it out, a 20-play drive where they kick a field goal. Like that kind of just sums it up to me, really.
That's why when they made the goal line stand, I said, all right, whatever. They made the stand. They got to do something with it. And Steve Levy, the lead host for ESPN on Monday Night Football, said that might have been the play of the year for the Falcons. Now that is bad.
That's really sad.
For a goal line stand in Week 4 to be the play of the year for the team right now, that just goes to show they really haven't had much to cheer about this year, man.
Yeah, they haven't, especially on defense.
Yeah, especially on defense. But it was really wasn't a lot of positives to pull from that game. The defensive line. I checked the stats when I put my takeaway column together. 1 sack, 1 pressure, 1 quarterback hit all game.
Oh yeah. Rodgers shredded the blitz. It was not working at all. Yeah, and it's also a big problem when Charles Harris, who you traded a conditional 7th for, is out playing your $16 million free agent pass rusher and Dante Fowler.
Pick already.
Yeah. So Charles Harris, I mean, hey, Dimitrov props. It's equal, props for finding a gem in the, a diamond in the rough in Charles Harris, but not props for spending $16 million on someone who's getting played by said 7th round conditional pick.
Hey, do y'all? Let me ask y'all this: do y'all think Fowler is going to end up this year as Ray Edwards if he don't pull it together?
Oh boy!
I mean, I do think honestly a lot of it was that ankle injury. But we'll see. We're going to see over the rest of the season. Like if he doesn't improve from this point, yes, he's in Ray Edwards territory if he doesn't start playing better at some point. So, yeah, that would be a disaster. Because now you're saddling the next regime with that mistake too. But I don't think Fowler's bad. Like
for this year, so he's pretty much a Falcon for 2 seasons.
Yeah, I honestly don't think Fowler's as bad as he looks. He's looked slow. Even in his years where he wasn't playing as well as he did last year, he didn't look slow, and he's looked slow this year to me. So I think the ankle injury has a lot to do with that. But we will see.
Along with probably not having Tack out there.
Yeah.
I honestly believe Tack might have been the difference in the Dallas game. And he might have been able to make a few plays against the offensive tackles for the Bears. The Packers their offensive line has improved. So let's go ahead and give them credit because they were one of the worst in the league last year. And I think so far in 4 games, I think they've only allowed 3 sacks.
They have the lowest sack rate in the league. Yeah.
They have improved, but literally 1 sack, 1 pressure, and 1 quarterback hit in the entire game.
Yeah,
the entire game. That's not going to cut it at the D3 level.
That ain't going to cut it. Yeah.
Let alone in the NFL. Like, come on, man. Like, it's just this. Deion Jones, he doesn't look like himself.
No.
He looks mentally clocked out, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if he's all the way there. They can't stay healthy at the safety position.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah still looks lost. There's no
Grady Jarrett is our lone bright spot, and he still looks a little hurt right now.
Right. Yeah.
I'm tired of Grady being the best defensive lineman every game. I love Grady, but I'm tired of it. Somebody got to Somebody got to step up.
Right. When I bought his jersey, I wasn't trying to like literally put every ounce of the defense on his shoulders. That was not my intention, Grady.
No,
I apologize. But yeah.
That's what it is. I love Grady. He brings it. He's a lunch pail guy. But Grady cannot be the best defensive lineman every single game.
Right.
Or
the
the
best
only
defensive player.
Yeah, or the only one, you know.
Can't be every game. You
Yeah.
can't.
No.
Somebody got to step up, man. Somebody got to make some plays. And this it's devastating, man. And this all goes back to coaching.
Yep, it does. And like, and that's really the crux of it to me, especially, is that like last week we talked about how the Falcons were the third worst team at running on second and long, and I've talked this to death, so I'm not gonna like spend a ton of time on it, but like
they're dead last now.
Now they're dead last. Like it got worse. Like not only like this team is like actively going against analytics. Like it's like Dirk Cutter was like, oh, well, we're going for it on fourth down now. Yeah. So okay, so that means you've heard of analytics, but you just didn't really do anything. Like you're like, oh well, you know, when we're past the 50, we'll consider going for it on fourth down. Okay, that's cool, but like, what about the rest of it? Like there's more there.
remember in the group chat I asked the over under, and I kind of asked it like halfway through the first quarter. I lost count, but I was keeping count on how many second down runs we saw, and I think after 8 or 9, I was like, okay.
Like honestly, they run on second and long more than they run on any other play. I think it's almost like as much as they run on first down.
So predictable, and if I can see it, then I know NFL teams are seeing it too. Like it's just, come on, man. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the distance. 2nd and 10, 2nd and 3, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 8. Run. Like
it's weird. Like, and to me, it reeks like of not having a cohesive offensive strategy, because we've seen that Cutter's totally willing to bomb it down the field on first down, which is cool. Like, go for it. Like that's the time to bomb it down the field. But like if you're willing to be aggressive on first down, you have to be willing to be aggressive on second down, because if you're gonna throw it downfield on first down, you're probably gonna be in 2nd and 10 a lot. So you need to. So instead of being like, well, like we're just gonna save our aggressiveness for first down, you know. But after we've thrown one deep pass, you know, that means that now we've used up our deep passing attempts for this, you know, set of downs. So we have to now run on second down. That's fair. No, like if you're gonna chuck it downfield on first down, you should be willing to chuck it downfield on second down, or chuck it downfield on third down. Chuck it whenever you want, because running on 2nd and 10 is a very, very low percentage play. Like,
you know, there's very little creativity.
Yeah.
With Dirk. And I don't get it. I hear it among other writers. He's well respected around the league. I don't see it. How? I mean, he may have been a creative offensive mind in his heyday, but right now in 2020, his offensive scheme is stale, man. Like it's not surprising anyone. You're very predictable with your running calls. You don't incorporate any motion. You don't do anything. So teams, if Eric is knowing what you're getting ready to do, I know defenses are saying, well, they're going to run it here, or they're going to do a play action right here. They're going to do a play action boot on first down, because you know they don't run on first down. They run on second down. They wait second down to run.
Yeah.
And that play action boot don't work if that run game ain't selling.
Play action boot, I ain't all for it, because it's the first play of the game. You probably ain't gonna run it. So yeah, there goes the fake. There goes the bootleg. He's rolling out. Here's the here's the crossing route with Hayden Hurst. He's trying to hit.
Somebody said in his face because they didn't go for that.
They didn't go for it. Yep. It's just I already know it. You already know what you're doing. There's no creativity, man. You gotta.
Hey, here I got a question, man. How healthy does Todd Gurley look, man? Like, I mean, I don't see too many explosive plays out of Todd.
He looks slow. He looks strong, and like he has a lot of balance, and his vision is still excellent. But he's not fast anymore. Clearly,
I think Gurley is healthy.
I think he's also healthy. Like I think he's lost a step. But, like, that's the thing. Like, he can still be effective with good blocking, and he can still be effective in short area, because he's really strong. He has tremendous contact balance and vision, but he's not. Is he worth $5.5 million? I guess is what I'm trying to get to. Like,
he had a couple plays where he bounced them outside.
Yeah, he went against the play call. He was like, "Oh, it's inside. I'm gonna run it outside."
This man is slowly trying to tell Dirk Cutter, "Run me outside," because I can go back to plays. I can go back to the Bears game, and I can, from watching that all 22, and I can pull at least 3 or 4 plays that were called up the middle, but he's bouncing it because he knows his strength. How come the offensive coordinator is not working off that strength?
Right.
You have to do that, man. Like, you have an offensive line. You have an agile offensive line that works better when they're on the move. Why are you calling inside zone runs? You have a running back who feels more comfortable getting to the boundary on his stretch runs. Why are you calling inside zone runs?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the interior guys are the weakest, other than Alex Mack, obviously, are the weakest link in terms of run blocking too. Like, both Caleb McGarry and Jake Matthews have been really good with the run blocking, and this team is really designed for the outside zone. Like, the offensive line was assembled for the outside zone, so I don't understand the reluctance to call it. I mean, honestly, to me, it's the crux of the issue is that Dirk Cutter is being asked to execute a scheme that he has never run before, that he's not comfortable with, and it shows. It shows. Like, this.
Again, that goes to me. That the fingers are being pointed to the coaches to Quinn and to Dimitrov.
Yeah,
why are you
exactly.
Why are you hiring a guy that's not going to want to run your scheme properly?
Exactly. Like, that is the crux of the issue here, that there is no plan. Like, if you're going to hire Dirk Cutter, just let him run his damn offense. Like, I don't love it.
No,
I'm not. But I'm saying, like, you don't hire him to run somebody else's offense. Like,
I don't love his offense.
I know, Eric. What I'm trying to say, what I really wanted to say is, you just don't hire Dirk Cutter at all. But if you're gonna hire him, and if that's just, maybe you made a deal with the devil where you said, okay, we have to hire Dirk Cutter in order to win a Super Bowl, then you at least let him run the offense he knows how to run. Don't try to pigeonhole him into running some offense he clearly doesn't know how to run. Like, it's silly to hire a professional coach who's run a scheme for close to a decade in the NFL and then ask him to do something different, and then be surprised when, lo and behold, he doesn't really know how to run it. Like,
I don't love his overall scheme that he ran in Tampa Bay, because he had a lot of vertical concepts. But as you can look at the numbers and just look at the film, he neglected the run a lot. You saw a lot of passes being thrown in the air. And eventually, that's what hurt quarterbacks like Jameis Winston, because he's turnover prone, but you're still asking him to throw the ball 30, 40 times a game.
Yeah.
I don't – as much as I love Matt Ryan and Julio and Calvin and what they can do in the passing game, they don't win games when Matt has to throw the ball 40 times. You can go back and look at the numbers. They don't win games when that happens. They win games when Matt has to throw the ball 25, 28 times a game. The run game is clicking, and they feed off those concepts feed off each other. That's when the Falcons are playing their best football on offense.
Yes, because Matt Ryan can be hyper efficient with those like in the Shanahan offense. That was why it was so good. So Matt Ryan wasn't even attempting that many passes. It was just he was averaging like 10 yards per attempt in a lot of games.
From 2018 to now, I can come up with 10 games where Matt Ryan has probably passed for 400 yards or more and they lost.
Yeah.
That's not as great as it looks on the stat sheet. That's not their offense. That's not how they win games. But to go back to Keenan's question, no, I think Gurley's healthy. I think this is a prime example of him not having that burst in his knee, which we tried to tell fans before the season, but they didn't want to believe us. A lot of Georgia Bulldog fans didn't want to believe us. They thought this was 2017 Gurley. This is not the same Todd Gurley. This is the best you're going to get.
Yeah.
He's healthy. He just can't. You can't beat players.
It's a shame. It is a shame. because I like Gurley. I think everybody likes Gurley. He's a local guy and someone you want to see succeed. And truth be told, like, he can be effective if the blocking is there and you're calling a scheme that's more suited to him. Like, let him use his vision, let him bounce stuff outside, let him run over corners, because his contact balance is still great. Like, he can still stay. I mean, you saw it on those 2 touchdowns. Like, he chucked guys, he saw the hole, he just bounced off and found his way into the end zone. But this is not a guy that's going to, like, you don't want to run inside zone with Gurley, because if on the off chance he gets that jump cut and gets out into open space, he's gonna get his upside is like a 10-yard run.
Yeah,
like, he's not breaking off these crazy long runs that you'd like to see from an inside zone or a power scheme, because the long speed isn't there anymore. Yeah, maybe Brian Hill can, maybe Ito Smith can, but not Gurley at this point.
He can't get to that third level quick anymore like he could, 3-4 years ago. He's better outside the numbers when it comes to running. Yeah. And you can look at the film and look at the numbers, and that shows that. He's also great inside the red zone. Like I pointed out plenty of times, he was third in the league last year in red zone touchdowns. Yeah, so
he's very savvy. Yeah.
With the Rams capitalize on that. They knew that. So inside the 20, you go back to last year, I think 11 of his 12 touchdowns last year were inside the 10-yard line. They knew that. Let's give him the ball. He'll get in the end zone. He'll find a way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead. I was going to switch to something different, so go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just fixing to say, as far as that outside and inside zone, running those concepts, like, in order to run that inside zone concept, you've got to be beating them or selling them, which way you want to say it, on that outside zone, because what ends up happening is they get to running because they don't want you to break it outside. Now you run that inside zone where that backfield action that showed the quarterback, not the quarterback, but the running back, he's turning the same way and he's hitting it, aiming for that same outside hole or whatever. And then all of a sudden he sticks his foot in the dirt and kind of jump cuts it back after everybody's ran so hard trying to stop him from getting outside.
Getting that defense to flow and then coming back against that flow.
Yes, sir.
That's what the inside zone runs. So that's like.
But you gotta have speed and you gotta get outside in order to get
them out here first. It's all about setting them up. You got to beat them out here first. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my big thing with Cutter, is that he doesn't seem to have much of a feel for the run. Like, what you're talking about, Keenan, is a key aspect of a run game. Like, there's just as much subtlety and skill involved in executing a run scheme properly as there is a passing scheme. Like, sure, there's like a ridiculous number of passing concepts and route combinations, especially when you start getting into like 3 and 4 wide receiver sets and all this, but the run game needs as much care given to it. It's not just, I'm going to call this run here, then I'm going to call this run. Like, it needs to be set up and cared for with the same level of finesse as the passing game. And I just don't think Dirk Cutter brings that to the table.
That's why when you see a lot of those inside zone runs, that's why you see so much congestion at the line of scrimmage, because those defensive linemen are not moving. They're stable. They're right there. So you're running an inside zone directly at a lineman. That's why a lot of these linemen are not moved. And these guys, as much these offensive linemen, they're not the powerful blockers that can move a defensive line and get to the second level enough for Gurley to get to the second level behind them. You have to kind of beat defenses with your agile linemen, with their ability to move, their ability.
You have to stick with it too.
Yeah, you have to stick with it too. Also, absolutely. We said this plenty of times before. Get those 2 or 3 yard runs in the first quarter. Trust me, they're going to break into 6 and 7 and 8 yard gains for the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yes, sir. You got to stick with it just so they can bring number 8 down into the box, and then now next thing you know, hey, we got this opened up out here. Now let's see which way they want to play it.
Hey, look, if anybody knows about sticking to the run game, it's Keenan, because he blocked with Mike Vick.
Right.
You think Vick is cared about trying to? You think they were worried about trying to tackle Mike Vick in the fourth quarter, because they kept hounding the run with Warren Dunn and T.J. Duckett, that when the fourth quarter came, the second half came, Vick was breaking off 20, 30-yard runs left and right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, and especially that rushing attack was very intricate, I assume, especially, I mean, back at the time, I can't claim to remember the concepts that were being run, because I think I was like maybe 10 years old or 12 years old at the time. But
they were a run-heavy team.
Yeah,
and that's it was an old school offense, but the dynamic with it was you had a quarterback that was so special and unique, like Michael Vick. So they used the old school concepts, such as running the ball pretty heavily, and defenses still couldn't stop it. That's the thing. Like, you knew going into the games against the Falcons then, you knew you were going to have to stop the run. But you couldn't. It was impossible.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. We've talked it to death, and I'm hoping to get the king of the nerds, Ben Baldwin, to come in here next week and talk to us a little bit more about the analytics behind, basically the analytics reasons why the Falcons offense is probably not performing as well as it should and all that. So I'll keep you guys posted. Hopefully he's going to be able to come on next Wednesday and we'll break into a little bit more of the stats and the reasons behind why second and long runs are so maligned these days, and the efficiency and all that stuff. He's an expert on that type of stuff, so I'm looking forward to that potential. But I also know folks want to talk about head coaching candidates. It's been a hot button topic with an 0-4 start. Unfortunately, Dan Quinn's days are probably numbered. I know we're not going to make Keenan say anything bad about wanting anyone fired. I promise we're not going to ask you to say that. No. But people want to know about head coaching candidates in the event that Dan Quinn is relieved. And I think that the chances of his firing coming are probably quite high. And I think if the Falcons lose against the Panthers, which we'll talk about later, it is very high that it will be then, based on comments that we heard from like Ian Rappaport and stuff about how these two games were a key stretch of the season. So let's talk about the head coaches that you guys are interested in. Eric, I know you had some opinions. The big names that everyone has thrown around are basically guys like Eric Bieniemy, probably the hottest name right now, Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith is another one that's been very popular. The Titans offensive coordinator. There might be some controversy there with all the stuff going on with the Titans. I don't think we know exactly what his involvement is in that whole situation, but that's another one to keep an eye on. And I know there are other names out there as well. There's college ranks and that sort of thing. Eric, who is the guy that you want at the top? Who's at the top of your list right now for the Falcons if they were to move on from Dan Quinn?
Bieniemy is at the top of the list right now, but I think with the way that this team is structured, and the way that things are looking as far, long term, this is a win now team. So when everybody has opinions as far as what's the best coaching situation or whatever. If a coach wants to win right now, if a coach wants to, let's put a couple of things together. Let's get to the playoffs right now. I think the Falcons present the best opportunity for a coach that wants to do that. Not Houston, not potentially the Jets or the Lions. The Falcons have the best structure right now for a coach that wants to step in and say, I want to get to the playoffs in 2021. So Bieniemy is at the top of the list. But I don't think the Falcons need to necessarily go after Bieniemy. I think there are some veteran coaches that can come in right now and make their modifications and get this team winning. And there's a couple veteran head coaches that I like. One, and I get creamed for it every time I say this, is Josh McDaniels, a former head coach for the Broncos. Everybody brings up what happened with him in Indy, and I will take this to my grave. I honestly believe what happened at Indy was a result of him possibly finding out that Andrew Luck was going to retire. So he recanted his decision.
Yeah. It could be that.
If that's the case, I can kind of understand. It looks ugly, I get it, but
that would probably scare the crap out of Arthur Blank, though.
It probably would. But at this point, Arthur Blank needs to, hey, man, look, you've been scared enough, okay? You watch your team lose the Super Bowl, okay? You need to just throw that to the side, throw caution to the wind, and go get your guy, because Matt Ryan's not getting younger. Julio's not getting younger. Forget what happened at Indy. I think with a guy like McDaniels, when he went back to New England, I think he learned a little bit as far as how to honestly be a head coach. And I think the second time around, I think he's going to be ready to go.
Yeah. That
Kind of like a Pete Carroll situation when he first went to New England and then to SC, and
he may be ready this time around.
that is something that happens. Like, I know it was ugly with Josh McDaniels when he got his first chance, but that is a trend with coaches. Like, people will fail, get another.
His first try, didn't he make the playoffs in Denver his first year?
Yeah, wasn't that the Tim Tebow year?
He took the playoffs with Tim Tebow as his quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, okay, that shows something. Like, hey, this guy can.
Yeah.
Do something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's probably time that he's going to get another chance. That would, to me, that's not my top choice, but I could definitely see it because we know Blank has an affinity for Patriots people.
Right.
He respects that organization a lot. So.
Head coach who's coming into a situation where he doesn't really have to rebuild. He's got Matt Ryan. He's got Julio Jones. He's got Calvin Ridley. I don't know. The Todd Gurley thing is a question mark. We'll see.
He's got some talent on the offensive line.
That offensive line is put together nice with Matthews and McGarry. And I think coming into next year's draft, with the possibility of maybe Alex Mack walking away, this offensive line class coming in is it's not spectacular at the top, but it's pretty deep. And I think they can get an early round guard that can come in and take that left guard spot and slide Hennessy to the center.
Yeah.
So this situation presents a decent opportunity for a guy like Josh McDaniels.
All he got to do is to build that defense up a little bit.
That's all he has to do. But that's where a guy like McDaniels will bring along a competent defensive minded head coach. Maybe some out of, like, I don't know, Wade Phillips or something.
Right. I was just thinking Wade too. Hey.
I don't know.
He's got the connection to the organization. A lot of folks might not remember that, but Wade Phillips was a defensive coordinator here. He was an interim head coach here. He has a relationship with the organization. That to me makes a lot of sense. Someone like Wade Phillips coming in as the defensive coordinator. But like,
I was here with Wade, man. Wade is solid. Boy.
He's well respected. I think he was criticized a bit for the Rams situation last year, but like I don't really know that it was particularly his fault. That whole team was super disappointing last year, but I mean, honestly, like, and we'll get back to some other. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
There's one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this one actually came to me today. What about Jim Harbaugh?
I mean, I'm not interested, but like, you know,
wow. I want to know why.
I don't like Jim Harbaugh. I just don't like him as a person. Now, maybe that's a bad judge because I like Dan Quinn as a person and he's a terrible head coach right now. But so maybe my like personal, feelings about a head coach aren't all that important. But I want an offensive mind. That's why, I guess. And
he's won.
Is he though?
No.
I mean, I watched that Michigan offense. I've been pretty unimpressed. But
I think he's one of those coaches, just like Steve Spurrier. Steve Spurrier is a better college coach than NFL coach. I think Harbaugh is a better NFL coach than college coach.
Could be. It could be.
He did get Alex Smith back going because Alex Smith was garbage when he was in San Fran for a little bit.
He got Alex Smith back going. He made Colin Kaepernick who he was.
Yeah.
He put that offense. He centered that offense around that run game with Frank Gore. Didn't have world beaters at receiver, but he damn sure made things look good with Anquan Bolden. Yeah. And so I mean,
if the lights didn't go out in New Orleans, they'd have came home with that
he
trophy.
probably would have won that game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should be a candidate. Again, a veteran head coach who's been around the block, who's coming into a situation where he doesn't have to rebuild. It's not a situation where it's like, hey man, he's ready to win now. He's not like a first year head coach and say, hey, let me get my guys in. It's a situation where he's coming in and say, 2021, we get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
It presents a decent situation for him.
Right.
I wouldn't throw it out the window. And what happened in San Francisco, that was just bumping heads.
Mm-hmm.
That was a front office and a head coach that didn't like each other, and somebody had to go, and it wasn't going to be the front office.
Right. Yeah, that does happen. I mean, that wouldn't be the worst hire. This isn't Adam Gase, Bill O'Brien territory with Jim Harbaugh coming in. I just think the Falcons probably, honestly, we'll see what happens around the league. But I do have a hard time thinking that the Falcons aren't the top vacancy, or at least the second best vacancy available, depending on your thoughts on the Texans vacancy.
I don't love that vacancy.
I don't either, because the draft situation is really bad, and the cap situation is almost as bad as the Falcons. So, I mean, it's not like the Texans' situation is necessarily better than Atlanta's. It probably depends on what you want. If you want a quarterback in place for the next 10 years, then you take the Texans because of Deshaun Watson. But if you want to draft a quarterback, and we'll get to that. People asked about draft takes. We're going to have some quarterback draft takes tonight. If you want to draft a quarterback for the future and you want the flexibility to do that, and you want a team and an owner that's probably better overall than the Texans situation, then Atlanta is clearly the better vacancy. But we'll see what happens around the league. There's always some surprise firings. We could be looking at Denver, potentially having an opening. That one's like somewhat interesting. I still don't think it's as attractive as Atlanta. The Jets job is definitely going to be open, but that is going to be, no matter what happens, that's going to be the least attractive job.
That's
so
dumb.
Yeah. I don't.
Regardless of what happens this offseason, it's going to be hard to steer me away from that. It may not be the best long-term situation for a head coach, but it's the best situation right now for a guy that wants to get to the playoffs and possibly make a Super Bowl run.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the expectations will be high in Atlanta because the roster is good, but also you have a patient owner in Arthur Blank that's not going to can you for a bad season. Like, you don't necessarily have that security with a lot of these teams, So, like, I think that security is attractive. As much as it's frustrated folks with Dan Quinn, like, head coaching candidates, particularly the top guys, want to have protection from a freak bad season, like an injury-ravaged season or just a season that goes off the rails when they first get to, it could be like what happened in, Arizona or whatever, where they were the last team to fire someone one and done, I think. So,
right. And Mr. Blank is not a cheap owner like some of these owners around here, where he ain't going to spend nothing on what you don't need coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously to me, I go with the easy one. Eric Bieniemy is the top candidate. We all know that. We've talked it to death. The Andy Reid tree is very proven, very successful for the most part. Andy Reid has done nothing but praise Bieniemy. Like, technically, is he the one calling the plays every Sunday? No, not because Andy Reid is, but he's integral to that game plan. He is someone that is taking part in creating it and has all that experience. I'm not worried necessarily about that he technically isn't the one calling plays angle. I just don't. That doesn't necessarily move the needle for me, because we know Andy Reid doesn't just put chumps at his coordinator spots, especially offensive coordinator. That's why his tree is so successful. And
let's be honest, sleeping with Bieniemy, he's in there on. Hey, you like that?
I do. I like
Chris
that.
Berman,
That's great. Yeah.
Shout out to Chris Berman, man.
Yeah,
Shout
that's
out
perfect.
Yeah, sleeping with Bieniemy. He may not be calling the plays on Sunday, but Monday nights and Tuesday nights, he's in there on that grease board with Andy, and they going through all. Hey, what do you like? What do you don't like? You know what I'm saying? I like this. I like that. They're going through it all. You know what I'm saying?
He may not be calling plays, but he damn sure taking notes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
His play
former running back, so he knows offense.
His play sheet just as big as Andy Reid, so he say, "Okay, Andy, call that play. He called that play. Let's see what happens. Oh, that play worked. Okay, all right."
Yeah.
And he's got a player's perspective too.
Yeah, he does.
Right.
Yeah. And I would just look, having a black head coach in Atlanta would just be awesome. And it would be great. Honestly, as terrible as this sounds, Bieniemy didn't get interviews last year, which is a travesty, first of all. But are the Jets even going to be interested in hiring him? If I'm just going to be straight up honest,
I think the Texans would.
The Texans would. I'm not accusing the Texans of anything. I'm accusing the Jets of something, and you guys know what I'm accusing them of.
Man, he ain't gonna go to Houston. I don't think nobody's gonna go to Houston unless they absolutely have to, bro.
Right.
They don't got nothing. They don't got no first, no second round pick. All they got is Deshaun. They gave away a top 3 wide receiver to the Cardinals.
They ran him out of town. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think they're in cap hell, like you said earlier, bro. Ain't nobody messing with Houston.
A lot of people painted the situation in Houston as if it was, oh my God, who would say no to Houston? It's not that great of a situation. You gotta look at it outside of the team. Look at the division with the AFC South. Okay. You take over in Houston, Tennessee's going to be pretty good for a while. Indy's going to be pretty good for a while. Once they get rid of their quarterback, once they move on from Phillip Rivers, they're still going to be pretty good. They're relatively young. Look at the Falcons and what they have in the NFC South. Now, okay, they're 0-4. I get it. Breeze ain't going to play forever. Brady ain't going to play forever. Carolina still don't have their quarterback yet.
Mm-hmm.
So long term, 2021 and beyond, the Falcons can get the right head coach and the right mixture, and they can win this division next year because Brady's going to be retired. I mean, Breeze is going to be retired, and you don't know what is going to happen with that quarterback situation because they give it to Taysom Hill. That ain't going to be a guarantee. How long Brady's going to play, who knows? And like I said, Carolina still doesn't have their quarterback or their team yet. So it's a situation that a veteran head coach or whoever wants to come in and say, hey, in a year or two, this can be our division because Matt Ryan is still playing fairly well. He's 35. You know, we still got Julio locked up for a little bit. We still got Calvin Ridley. I got plenty of assets right here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me fix this defense, and in a year or two, we can own this division because the Saints may take a step back when Breeze is gone. Carolina still ain't got everything together yet. Who knows what the Bucs are going to do when Brady leaves?
Yeah, no, and that's why I have a hard time seeing an opening that's more attractive than Atlanta's.
Right.
Unless maybe like some team that you don't expect gets the #1 overall pick or something.
From a win now standpoint,
yes.
You're looking long term. Honestly, they're better situations than the Falcons long term. Like I honestly like the Jags situation long term because they have so much draft capital over the next 2 years, and they're going to have a ton of cap space over the next 2 or 3 years too. So long term, they're going to be right back in the thick of things.
Yeah.
So right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks ugly now. Yeah, I get
it. It is. Yeah. So like, if you want to win a Super Bowl, and you want the highest chance of winning a Super Bowl, it's probably Atlanta in the next 2 years. Yeah. So like, and honestly, like I don't think the talent is as bad as it looks. I think with even middle of the road coaching, this team would probably be 2-2. Probably.
Yeah.
So like this team is not 0-4 talent. This team is 0-4 coaching.
Good.
You know,
I like that.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they're like Super Bowl contenders this year in terms of talent, but are they good enough to be competitive every single week? Yes. They should be more competitive than they are. So
I think they're good enough to get in the playoffs and get the right road to the Super Bowl, and they can make a run.
Yeah, when you have a quarterback like Matt Ryan, then you're always going to be able to potentially get to the playoffs. But, so, I mean,
Matt is in the top 5, I think, of passing this year. He still is.
He still is.
He had a kind of I don't want to say off, but you know, he didn't play, I guess, as high as he did, you know, in this past game as he has in the previous games. But he's still up there, man.
Yeah. So, like, that's absolutely on the table. Bieniemy is, I think, the top choice pretty much. But, you know, Arthur Smith from the Titans is another name that's been floated out there. I think Solaire mentioned Brian Daboll of the Bills, who's coordinating a very exciting offense this year. He's another name that could gain some steam if the Bills really make a run. So, you know, I think there's a lot of good candidates. I think this is going to be a very strong year for candidates. And I think the Falcons will basically have their pick of the crop. But I think it should be Bieniemy. I think giving Bieniemy an opportunity to be a head coach is something that has to happen. It needs to happen. And I think doing it in a city like Atlanta, who will really rise up and support him, and just like this, like I can't think of a better city to have a whole black front office. Like Louis Riddick, Eric Bieniemy, like this is the perfect city for that. The fans would be all about that. They don't have to worry about, you know, the fans that. I won't, you know, say anything specific about the fans that they need to worry about, but I don't think they're going to have as many concerns about that here, and I just think it would be awesome. Like Louis Riddick probably, it's been speculated that he wants to get back into the league, so
that's my dream choice for GM, man. I don't have a list outside.
Yeah, I mean GM's a little bit fuzzier than.
I don't have a GM coach. I don't have a GM list. It's Louis Riddick, and then that's it.
Yeah,
that's the guy I want.
Yeah.
So do y'all think that if he gets, so y'all are thinking that if Dan goes, then Dimitrov is going too, huh?
He has to.
Yeah, I think he has to because go ahead.
That would be blank. That would be blank moving on from two different coaches under Dimitrov. Like he would have to go at this point.
Yeah, I think it has to happen because I think you turn off the top head coaching candidates if you keep Dimitrov. Not necessarily because Dimitrov is like a terrible GM or anything, but if Dimitrov is kept this year, he's basically a lame duck GM. Like if there's another bad season, Dimitrov makes some mistakes or whatever, then there's the chance of Dimitrov getting fired and the head coach staying. And that's a bad situation for the head coach because he doesn't know if the new GM wants him to stick around or wants eventually to get his own head coach or his own guys or whatever. I think it's better to just hire a head coach and a GM that are going to be on the same page and link together and go that route with it.
Kind of going in their own path, blazing their own path, I guess.
Yeah.
I think this because under Mike Smith, we saw that it wasn't necessarily, not having the players, because I think what we saw from Mike Smith era was, of course, coaching towards the, the tail end of that tenure.
Mm-hmm.
And then Quinn came in, and essentially Quinn took what Mike Smith had, added a few players in there, and made a Super Bowl run in 2 years. I think in this situation, at this tail end of the Dan Quinn era, we're seeing is that it's coaching along with some personnel decisions. And I just don't think Dimitrov is going to escape the wrath this time around. I think he got a little lucky by still sticking around after they got rid of Mike Smith. But now, I think he's out the door along with Quinn if that plays out that certain way.
Yeah. And I do think, like, Robert Kelly in the chat brings up a good point. Like, if it's Josh McDaniels that is ending up as the head coach, I think that does leave the door open for Dimitrov to stay because they have an existing relationship. But for pretty much any other head coach, I don't think so. I just don't think so. So it's possible, but unlikely. And I did promise draft takes. So part of luring in a top offensive mind, and I think DW wrote an article about it today. If the Falcons do end up with that top 5 pick, is a quarterback on the table to be drafted. And I think that, yes, it has to be on the table. Does it need to be an assurance? No. But I think if you want to attract a top offensive coordinator like Bieniemy to be your head coach, you have to leave the door open that if the guy that he wants is available for a long term, like you have to give him the flexibility to take the quarterback he wants. And for the Falcons, I think they're probably going to be picking around 5. That's my guess right now. I don't think they're going to be number 1. I don't think they're going to be top 3 really. So that probably takes them out of the running for someone like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. But with the 5th overall pick, Trey Lance could be there. Maybe Fields is there if there's a couple teams smash into that early part of the round that don't necessarily need quarterback. So if that's the guy that Eric Bieniemy or Arthur Smith or one of these guys wants as their long-term quarterback, then you have to entertain the possibility. And it doesn't have anything to do with Matt Ryan, really, other than the fact that Matt Ryan's 35 and probably has 5 good years left. You have to entertain it because ideally this new head coach is going to come in with the pitch that we're never going to be in the top 5 again. So if you do want to get a top quarterback, this is your shot to do so. And there are some good guys at the top, like legitimately intriguing guys. But even if you take this quarterback, for those that are freaking out, Matt Ryan's not going anywhere in 2021. He's almost certainly not going anywhere in 2022 either. Like his contract makes it so he's not going anywhere for at least a year, maybe 2 years at the earliest. So whoever's coming in is going to be sat behind Ryan for several years. He'll get the Patrick Mahomes treatment, but
there's not a reasonable dead cap hit until 2023.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that year's like $8 million or something like that.
Yes. And you save like 30. So at that point, it could make financial sense to trade Matt Ryan. And honestly, the best case scenario would be like Matt Ryan's playing great. You bring in Eric Bieniemy. This team's in the playoffs. This team's competing. Best case scenario, Matt Ryan wins a Super Bowl here, and he's like a hero, and it's all great. And then in 2023, maybe you decide that you do want to get this new quarterback involved, or you re-sign Matt Ryan to a short extension or something like that, and you decide to trade the new quarterback. I don't know what happens, but like one of the better scenarios is Matt Ryan continues playing really well, and then you trade him to a contender, for a first round pick or something like that, who just is a quarterback away, and then you have your quarterback of the future already in the building, ready to go. That could make everyone happy, particularly if Ryan's able to get a Super Bowl here. But honestly, if Matt Ryan wins a Super Bowl here, he's never leaving Atlanta. So Arthur Blank will never let him leave Atlanta, probably. So that'll be interesting if that happens. I would be happy to have that dilemma any day of the week. So, bring it on, football gods, if you want to give us that scenario. But I think it's a conversation worth having. So, Eric, what are your thoughts on the quarterback dilemma as it stands right now?
I think with the quarterback class that's coming up in 2021, it's not a deep class. You have Lawrence and Fields. You have Trey Lance. After that, there's a really big drop-off, like a considerable drop-off. Those are probably the only three guys out of next year's draft that we can say are quote-unquote franchise quarterbacks or have the possibility to be franchise quarterbacks. I think a lot of other guys after that are primary backups, will have to be molded into starters, but there's a considerable drop-off. If the Falcons were to go in that direction to try to get a quarterback, to me, they have to get in the top five.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Lawrence and Fields are going to drop out of that top five.
No, I don't think Lawrence is getting out of the top three.
Lance is getting a lot of hype. And I'm not necessarily sold on it. So I'm not quite sure because every year you get that one, you get that one non-Power 5 quarterback that's making a little noise, and he may end up being a first-round pick, and you're kind of wondering, like, okay, where did that come from?
Right.
So I'm not quite sold on Trey Lance yet.
Yeah,
so,
Trey Lance honestly reminds me a little bit of Mahomes' draft stock at this point in his year. As in, he was kind of raw. People had a lot of questions about if he would translate to the NFL.
Actually, it reminds me more of Wentz.
Yeah, obviously the Wentz comparison is easy because they're both NDSU guys. But yeah, I think Mahomes was much more accomplished as a passer, certainly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The numbers.
How did he play in these previous games before he decided to opt out? Like, I know he was a baller last year, and they played a couple games this year.
That was it. Yeah. That was last year. That was it.
Did he pick right back up, or was he like, okay, on another level than he was?
Lance played one game this last weekend where he had some great throws, and then he was kind of meh, and then he looked like an elite running quarterback. But that's all that we're going to see of him before 2021's draft. So, it's a risky proposition, no doubt.
But his numbers are definitely, his numbers are definitely nice. Last year he threw, and I don't know how much this really translates, but last year he threw for 28 touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Yeah, that's not going to hold.
It's kind of hard to look at that and say, "Oh my God, he's going to be an NFL starting caliber quarterback." He does play for North Dakota State. I think we need to put into consideration the talent,
the context. Yes.
So it's they're still not saying he can't be good. I'm just not all the way into it yet.
Right, and I think honestly, the perfect situation for him is probably going to some place like Atlanta where he can sit for a year or even 2 years. Yes. To learn the system, to get acclimated, to have great coaching behind someone like an Eric Bieniemy, and then, like Eric Bieniemy helped mold Patrick Mahomes, like, who needed some molding. Like, let's be real, like he did need some molding, but like that could be the perfect situation.
Worked out for Aaron Rodgers too, sitting behind Brett Favre, because for a couple years there before Rodgers got I remember sitting in meetings and seeing him make some throws in preseason and being like, "Oh my God, who is this guy?"
Well, even that treatment now for Aaron Rodgers has probably lit a fire up under him, and now he's in the MVP conversation after four weeks. So you never know what that can do for a lot of guys. But the interesting thing about this draft is, if they're not going for a quarterback and they're not in the top 10, they're kind of sort of in a no man's land, in my opinion, because the better prospects in the draft are at positions where the Falcons have assets already in place.
Yeah, like Penei Sewell and
right. So the top prospects in this draft are either receiver, which they don't need one, with offensive tackle, which they don't necessarily need one right now. Where else?
Like Marvin Wilson, maybe if you're in the top 10, you could get Marvin Wilson.
Defensive line, maybe, but that's high to get a nose. That's really
He's an
high.
elite nose, but yes, I agree with you. That would be
That's
high.
really high to get a nose. So it's either if they're not drafting in the top 5 and they're not going for a quarterback,
I don't know, Gregory Rousseau. Yeah.
I think Gregory Rousseau is a top 5 pick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe in the lighter half of the top 10 if
You
a
know,
bunch of quarterbacks go. But
Parsons, linebacker for Penn
yeah,
State.
that's top 10 though. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's at a position that they already have something in place with Deion Jones. So I think they're in a situation where if they don't go for a quarterback, I honestly don't know where they're going to target. They may actually just get a guy at a position of luxury already and just say, hey, we drafted AJ Terrell, so we're going to get another corner this year in the first round. Like,
I do wonder, like, if it is Bieniemy that comes in here, if he's just like, you know what? No, like, one defensive player is going to fix our defense. I'm taking Jamar Chase, top 10. We're going to have the best weapons in the NFL. Let's put up 35 points a game and go from there. I wouldn't be totally against that if we did have the offensive mind to actually execute that. But, like, you're right. Like, it doesn't necessarily line up perfectly with what the Falcons need.
It doesn't. So basically what I'm saying is this is not a great year for the Falcons to be in the top 10 because
but that could be maybe the perfect reason to take that quarterback in that way,
But I think if they're not in the top 10 and they want one of those, they're going to have to trade up. That's the thing.
I think they'll be in the top 10. I think they're going to be in the top. They might not be in the top 5, but I think they'll be in the top 10.
But if they're at 9 or 10 and Fields and Lawrence are gone and they're not sold on Trey Lance,
it would be Trey Lance. Like, honestly, if I had to put it down on paper right now, they're going to end up with Trey Lance. Like, it's almost certainly not going to be Lawrence, and it's probably not going to be Fields. It's probably, if they're going to take a quarterback next year, I'd say the odds-on favor is Trey Lance because of where they're going to be picking. But if they don't like Lance, then they're probably not taking a quarterback in the first round. That's just where we're at. They're just going to be looking elsewhere for that, and we'll see how that plays out. But Keenan, do you have any thoughts on the potential of taking a quarterback high this year?
You know what? I have to see how Matt continues to play over the year. Like, right now, Matt's still playing good. I don't like the idea, but, you got a guy like Lawrence he's a generational talent, man. You can't overlook him.
Mm-hmm.
Matt is, y'all said he's 35. He is getting older. So, I mean, it might be one of the things where if we could get him, then, you go ahead and get him and use Matt as, you know what I'm saying, some trade bait or something down the road, but Matt's still playing well, so I'm up in the air with that.
Yeah,
but I do get what y'all saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's fair, and we do need to kind of see how it plays out too, because like Eric said, if they're not picking in the top 10, quarterback's probably off the table. So we'll see how they rally, or if they rally over the course of the season. But on that note, we should talk about this Panthers game probably before we get out of here. But before we jump into that, just want to remind folks to throw a like at the video if you haven't already. That helps other people on YouTube find us. We really appreciate that. And then if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you can hit that subscribe button and you will get the updates anytime we put out new content on here. And also for the post game on Sunday. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be talking right after the game. Tons of people show up. It's very lively. It's very entertaining, especially if we lose, apparently, because you guys seem to really love that. But hit that up as well. Let's talk about this Panthers game a little bit. The Panthers have actually been decent over the past 2 weeks. They've been very competitive, particularly on offense. This is not a game that is a gimme for the Falcons at all. No game is a gimme if you're 0-4, but this is a potentially, difficult game for this team with a defense that's an active liability that's really, really banged up. The Panthers are no slouch. Keenan, what are your thoughts going into this game? Do you think this is, can the Falcons get a win this week, or is this another situation where it's going to be a shootout because the defense just can't stop them?
I think we can get a win. It's a division opponent. It's Carolina, so Falcons versus Carolina, they always play tough, despite the record. I think it's still a game we can win. It just depends on if the defense make their mind up and decide to show up, you know what I'm saying, and put forth of an effort. And we got to put together a good game plan, from the coaches. I'm still pulling for them. I believe that they can do it, but I'm in a wait and see approach at this point.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think a lot of fans are, even the really optimistic ones, because like we haven't really seen it from this team. Like we need to see life, particularly from the defense, because I mean, honestly, if I'm Matt Ryan and I put up, 39 points against the Cowboys and lose, like I'm demoralized. Like I'm crushed. Like I don't know what else I as a quarterback could do to win that game. I mean, that game was back and forth constantly. And then you do the same thing the next week. You go up big on the Bears, and the defense can't close it out. Like that's crushing for team morale, and it probably leads to games like Monday night where the offense, like the defense gets them in a big hole early, and the offense is just like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like we can't overcome this. And honestly, like the mental side of being 0-4 is just as damaging as the fact that you are 0-4, like from a statistical standpoint. Like there's a reason that only one team in NFL history since the merger has made the playoffs after 0-4. It's because not only is 0-4 really difficult to claw out of and usually portend that your team is really bad, it's like a crushing place to be mentally. Like you have to try to dig out of a serious deficit. If you're 0-4, it means that all of your hopes for the season have essentially been flushed down the drain, and you have to try to get out of that. It's difficult psychologically as well as on-field wise to dig out of that hole. And maybe you can start that against a division opponent. The one thing Quinn does have going for him is he's a streaky loser and he's a streaky winner. So this team is capable of rattling off a bunch of wins seemingly at random. That was part of their 2016 run, kind of a lopsided start that wasn't super inspiring, and then they just got hot and torched the league down the stretch. We're not 100% foreclosed on that possibility. I would say we're about 99% foreclosed on that possibility, but this team can still be competitive and probably should be 2-2 if we're being honest. So it's a difficult spot to be in.
Yeah, they just got to make up their mind this week when they go out to practice and figure out, hey, are we going, we're gonna tuck it in, or we gonna go out and try and get us a win versus a division opponent, man. And hopefully, they make their mind up, man, because going 0-4 and coming back to practice, especially on a short week like this, you played on Monday, that's a lot. You know, it's a lot mentally, it's a lot physically, but man, why not? It's right. Carolina. We used to beating them. Yeah. Why not get back on track this week, man?
Right. I mean, this is your best chance to get a win of the first 5 games, probably. So if you're gonna do it, you got to do it now. So, Eric, you got to take on this game. How are you feeling going into this matchup?
This time. This is the week they
This
turn
is
around.
the time. Yeah.
See, this is a tricky matchup because, during the Dan Quinn era, they've owned Carolina.
Yeah.
They've owned Carolina. Outside of what happened in 2015, from 2016 on now, they've owned Carolina, man. I think what is it? 3 of those past 4 seasons they've swept Carolina. I want to say. Yeah,
they definitely have played extremely well against them.
Yeah, definitely 2016. They swept them last year, and I think they swept them in 2018 too. I believe. Yeah, they did. They swept them in 2018. But this is a tricky team because the Panthers are top 10 in defense, which I didn't expect.
Right? No one did. Yeah.
They're top 10 in takeaways, which I didn't expect. If there's one silver lining against playing against that defense, they don't sack the quarterback, even though Brian Burns. Oh, Brian Burns.
Shout out to Brian Burns. Yeah.
Even though he's a stud and he is going to be a force in the upcoming years. They don't really get after the quarterback that well outside of him. And they're 31st in the league in third down percentage, defensive third down percentage. But this is a tricky matchup because you look at a few numbers across the board, and the Panthers are playing relatively well. I think they're top 12 or so in offense. It's hard, man. It's hard because on paper, this is a better team, more talented team than Carolina.
Yeah.
But they're not playing like it. But Carolina is playing like a team that ain't nothing else to lose.
Right. I mean, if they're going to win, it has to be – like, if Quinn wants to save his job, he has to win this week. Like, honestly, I promise I'm not going to make you say anything, Keenan. I promise. But, like, from the perspective of what we know, like –
we said that against Chicago.
I know. Well,
he can't. He has to bounce back after losing to Dallas.
Well, if they wanted to make the playoffs, yes. But I'm saying, like, if he doesn't want to be fired midseason, he needs to win right now. We heard Rappaport's report was that these next two games, quote unquote, and that includes the Packers game and the Panthers game, would be integral to deciding Dan Quinn's fate. Now, maybe that means at the end of the season, but I think Arthur Blank's got egg on his face. I think Arthur Blank stuck his neck out for Dan Quinn, and Quinn has burned him in a major way. And I think Arthur Blank is more willing than normal to do something about it because his team is a laughingstock. Like, this is not, like, Arthur Blank is a very calm and collected owner that doesn't make snap decisions. 0-5 is no longer a snap decision. That's like, this is a disaster, and I have to take action to show that this is not accepted. So, like, Eric, you could be 100% right that nothing happens, and you probably would be because that's what we should be used to at this point. But I don't think, like, there's probably no coming back from 0-4. But 0-5, like, this isn't, like, at least with 1-7, he had the one keeping him from being winless. Like, what? I mean, I know you would be surprised how one win covers up all problems. I mean, look, that San Francisco win almost certainly saved Quinn's job. That was one win. So, like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's what happened.
Who did they beat to get that one win last year? Who was it?
I don't remember. I don't remember anything about the first half of that season. Other than depression in that Texans game. That was a travesty. The first time a Falcons team had given up 50 points in since the 80s or something like that. It was a really long time.
Look, man, I get the respect level that is placed for Arthur Blank, but how much longer can you endure of this, man?
I don't think it's very long. No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
it was a punching bag.
Yeah.
They started off 1-7 last year. They're starting off 0-4 this year. Like, what else do you need to see? Like, I honestly don't see what a win over Carolina can do to Dan Quinn's tenure. I don't.
Right. I mean, I don't think it saves him long term, no matter what. But
you're just talking about him getting fired by mid-season.
I'm talking about him getting fired like Monday after the game. Yeah, like, which is the most. I mean, that is the most difficult form of firing. So
if he really wants to see a change and he's really ready to get something done, do it now, man. Like, don't be afraid. Like, your team is already 0-4. So if you're petrified,
what's the worst that could happen? Yeah.
If you're already petrified of headlines of firing your head coach mid-season, then what are we doing here? Like,
right.
Your team is already a laughingstock. So it can't get much worse if you fire what's made your team the laughingstock. It's not going to, oh my God, why did you fire Dan Quinn? No, they started 0-4. We can understand.
No one's going to be questioning it. Like, that's the thing. Like, people are questioning why it hasn't happened already.
Exactly.
Like,
he's going to get more questions as the season goes on. Like, why is he still keeping Dan Quinn around? The team is 1-11, but he's hoping for the best.
Right.
Like,
I mean, I guess you could make the argument for firing Dan Quinn that if the team's 0-5, statistically speaking, they're out of it. But if you're hoping for a spark to ignite some kind of miraculous comeback,
he's hoping for them to get mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
But you should make a change before you're mathematically eliminated. So then maybe there's some look, we already saw a 99.9% chance of victory get thrown out this year by the Falcons. So why not a 99.9% chance of not making the playoffs get turned around by a miraculous firing? Okay. Like, if you do it when you're 0-9, it's too late. If you do it when you're 0-5, maybe there's like some cosmic chance that you could turn it around.
If we're being technical, they're not going to get mathematically eliminated until probably week 9 or 10.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you do make a change now, you could maybe parlay that into like, oh, well, we're hoping that a Raheem Morris takeover could spark this team into winning more games or something. And because if you wait until you're 0-9, it doesn't matter. It's clearly you're just phoning it in at that point. So that could be another contributing factor into why you might make a decision now, but probably not. I don't know.
Hey, if they was to do something like that, I would say, man, go on ahead and, go on ahead and let my boy Jeff Ulbrich go on ahead and write the shit.
Right.
You might as well. What are we doing here? Why are we keeping the misery around? I don't get it. Like, let's just go ahead and just get it out the way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I think the odds-on favorite would probably be Raheem Morris because of his head coaching experience, but it might make more sense to make Jeff Ulbrich because you don't know what you have in him. Like, he's a younger coach that has...
From Morris over the 4 weeks to not give him the keys to the entire team.
Yeah,
I don't want to give him the keys to the defense. I don't want to give him keys to the entire team. Like, no, let Ulbrich be the guy.
Right.
Let's just see what we can get out of Ulbrich because you never know. Ulbrich can coach himself well enough to the end of the year to say, you know what, let's keep him on as DC, full-time DC next year.
Yeah, I mean. If someone like Bieniemy comes in and doesn't have a guy that he really loves to be his DC, I mean, maybe.
Like what he saw from Ulbrich over that last 8, 9, 10 weeks or whatever, then he might keep him on as a DC. You never know.
You never know. It could be. Yeah.
Hey, and he's got a voice, too, where people will listen to him. You know what I'm saying? He's a former 10-year player. You know, he's got that type of attitude and that swagger where guys will listen to him because they know he's been on that side of the fence with him, but he's now over here. So, he's got credentials, man.
He does. Yeah. We definitely need to get out of the Seattle scheme, though. I agree with the folks in the chat that are saying that. Like, we need to... You can run cover 3 sometimes. Like, it's not like we can't run cover 3, but, like, don't just run cover 3. Every snap. It's either cover 3 or cover 1.
Not the scheme. It's not the scheme, but we'll get into that the next show.
Well, the scheme's not doing them any favors.
You got to have the personnel for that scheme.
Well, you do.
It's not the scheme. I'm telling you, the Seattle scheme can work.
If you have elite players.
You have to have the players.
Right, so we're not going to have the players, more than likely. So we need a different scheme is what I'm trying to say.
Anybody that wants to say, well, the Seattle scheme is not working in Seattle now, well, that's because they don't have the play. They don't have a pass rush, for one thing. That's probably why it's not working. They don't have the players.
The scheme can work. Yes, we've seen it work. But I'm saying it's a very personnel-reliant scheme, which is probably not the best fit for the Falcons, being honest.
Which also means you can't make a whole lot of modifications during the season with this scheme because your players are suited specifically for this matter. So you really can't make a whole lot of changes. You just got to hope for the best. And that's what they're doing. But it's not the scheme. I'm telling you, the scheme can work.
Well, the scheme can work. I guess maybe I should rephrase it and say the scheme in combination with this set of players is the problem. Not necessarily just the scheme in a vacuum. But I do think it's a mistake to have a personnel-dependent scheme when you have a team that probably should be offense-focused. Like, you should probably use a scheme that you can get by with a little bit less on defense, like what Kansas City does. Because... this is a team that is going to emphasize offense and should emphasize offense, and you just need good enough on defense to get by. So, but we'll see what happens with that. It's rough. It's rough right now. You guys all know that. This is 0-4. It sucks. You know, it's the first time we've experienced this since I think it's 99 was the last time they were 0-4. So the first time in this century, certainly.
I wonder what's going to be the wacky stat this week.
We always get one. I'm not going to bother predicting that, but
it'll be the wacky stat this week. Let's see, he's going
to Teddy Bridgewater 5 touchdowns or something.
He's going to be the first player in NFL history to throw a touchdown, catch a touchdown, and take a punt return for a touchdown.
They put him back at punt return. That's probably a dire situation if that happens, but we won't hope. We won't hope for that one. But it's a rough situation. We appreciate all you guys tuning in and talking through it with us. We will do our best to help guide you through this very dark and depressing year of Falcons football. And we do it because we have great people here that are doing a tremendous job helping me cover the team.
Panthers kicker goes 10 for 10 in field goals.
There's no. It's the first 30-point game with only field goals. Yeah.
Beats the Falcons 30-28.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. All right.
Every single drive ends in a field goal.
Jesus.
That would be pretty terrible. But yeah, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Joining us tonight, we have, first of all, Keenan Forney at K4065 and F65 Performance on Instagram. Keenan, give me your prediction for the game, and if you have anything else to plug, let the people know.
I think that we'll beat a division opponent this Saturday. This time it'll be different. Yes, and on other news, man, I'd like to say congratulations to one of my kids who I trained, Dason Manu at Mountain View High School. He got an offer to Trinity University. He's been working hard the past 3 years, and get a win, it might stop.
Right.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Congratulations to him.
High school, college, whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely, guys. Yeah, definitely check that out if you're a young offensive lineman or just an offensive lineman in general looking to improve those skills. Keenan will help you out. He knows his stuff for sure. Also joining us tonight, Eric Robinson at _Eric_Robinson. Eric, what's your prediction tonight?
For the Panthers game?
Yeah, for the Panthers game, man. Come on. We gotta make these picks. Okay, not this time, according to Eric. Not this time. Fool me once, shame on you.
Not gonna give a score.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I also have to pick against the Falcons. I need them to show me. Like, maybe if I pick against them every week, they'll get inspired by that. Probably not. I'm sure they have no feelings whatsoever about what I think. But
there's nothing that shows like, okay, this is they can turn it around.
This time, Eric. This time. Guys, I'm Kevin Knight on Twitter at Falcoholic. Kevin, you can check me out there. We're gonna have all kinds of content this week at thefalcoholic.com about this game, about Dan Quinn's job security, draft takes, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how much you like the draft, coming soon. Yeah, we still got stuff to talk about. We still got a lot of games to go. Hopefully the team will be competitive and fun in those games. Before you guys tune out tonight, do give a like to the video. That helps other folks on YouTube find it. And if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate that. And that'll help you guys keep tabs on what we're up to as well. Otherwise, folks, thank you again for tuning in. We will be back on Sunday after the Panthers game to break that down. Maybe it'll be a win. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm sure some of you still are hoping for wins. So we'll hope for the best. We'll hope that the Falcons look good. Hope that everyone stays healthy and COVID-free, and the NFL just keeps on trucking this year. But
mask up.
Yeah, mask up, distance. I'll do all that good stuff. And I know in a lot of states the voter registration deadline is closing very soon. So definitely get out there. Make sure you're registered to vote and take part in. If you're in America, I know we have a lot of international viewers too, but if you're in America, make sure you're registered to vote. Get out there. Exercise your rights and make your voice heard, folks. Do that as well. All right, guys.
Get out and vote, baby. Get out and vote.
Get out and vote. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you guys on Sunday. Thanks again from all of us here at